Republican Congressman and member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Tim Burchett. We want to thank you very much, Congressman, for being here today. I want to start with the war in Israel that shows really no signs of slowing down. It's really scary to watch. Israel claims that it killed the senior Hezbollah commander in Beirut in a strike, and the deadly pager attacks killed dozens earlier this week. So we've had a lot going on. What is the House Foreign Affairs Committee doing right now to try and stop this violence?
Well, currently, I've actually proposed legislation dealing with the United Nations. As you know, the United Nations has repeatedly tried to hinder Israel, even defending themselves, and now they're wanting to go back to the levels of 1967. And so at some point, you know, we've just got to say enough is enough for the United Nations. But the targeted attacks with the pagers has been overwhelmingly, if not endorsed, has been followed, especially by our intelligence agencies. They were targeted. They took out the people that they were intended to, and I think it's going to cause terrorist organizations around the world, especially those that are enemies of Israel, to take pause. And every time they pick up a cell phone or a pager or get on a motorcycle, right, they're gonna be thinking to themselves, should I turn this thing on? Should I take this page? You know, and so I think it's doing exactly what they intended to do, and they took out one of the leaders of that group. But you also got to realize this country has, we're on record as paying the Taliban right now. And I've had legislation dealing with that, and nobody seems to want to address those kind of things. So as usual, the big boys in the arms industry are profiting, and we need to clean up our act.
You know, I want to point our viewers to the live look at the Israel-Lebanon border. That's what we're looking at right now on our screens as we continue this conversation. I also want to ask you about the House unanimously passing a bill that will strengthen Secret Service protection for major presidential and vice presidential candidates. This is an important topic, and it comes at a time after two apparent assassination attempts on presidential nominee former President Trump. So do you think this bill is enough, or should more be done at this point?
Well, politics shouldn't enter into it. It should rise to the occasion, the level of support or protection that they have. And currently, right now, it's a political football. As you remember, Robert Kennedy Jr. And there's no family in this country that has been dealt more fatal blows by assassins' bullets than the Kennedy family. Yet he was denied Secret Service protection. If you remember, Hunter Biden was given more Secret Service protection when he was going into federal court than President Trump or Robert Kennedy Jr. was. So it needs to be, there needs to be a scale there, ma'am. It needs to be taken up. When President Obama announced that he was running, he was given immediate access to Secret Service. So, the politics shouldn't enter into it. It should rise to the occasion. Of course, under the first assassination attempt, we're not even sure if all those people on that stage with President Trump were Secret Service. Some of them were brave. Some of them were hiding behind the pile. Some were trying to put their guns in their holsters. I mean, it was a cluster of epic proportion. So the Secret Service needs to clean up their act. And I tell you, the one way they want, everybody says, well, how would you do it, Burchett? Get them out of the counterfeit enforcement business. Send that over to the Treasury. They have a $3 billion with a B, a $3 billion a year budget, and they have 6,000 employees. They need to clean up their act, and it is a cultural problem, and you're not going to see it cleaned up with the current leadership they have in place. Case in point, their Miami lead, the head of their Secret Service in Miami, was told to take down his negative posts on Facebook about Donald Trump before they would promote him to be the leader of that organization. That should have never even gone in. That should have marked him off. I mean, what kind of person in the Secret Service in the federal government does post something? It's like these kids out here that are calling in bomb threats on their schools thinking they're not going to get caught. I mean, it's forever. It's out there. We can do better.
Okay. Well, you bring up a lot of interesting points on all of that with the Secret Service. I also want to get your take on the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates for the first time since the beginning of the pandemic, lowering borrowing costs by 0.5 point. in a move that should bring relief to households and businesses strained under elevated rates. So former President Trump says the historic rate cut could be a political move by the Biden administration. So I want to listen here and get your take on the other side of this.
Yes, it shows the economy is very bad to cut it by that much. Assuming they're not just playing politics, the economy would be very bad, or they're playing politics, one or the other. But it was a big cut.
All right. So do you agree with Trump and think that this rate cut was a political move, or was it something else?
I would hope it wasn't a political move, but this 45 days from an election, you have to realize that what's going on. This Washington, D.C. is not a swamp, ma'am. A swamp is an ecosystem created by God. This is a sewer, and it's top to bottom, and it needs to be cleaned out, and it's not being cleaned out currently. Every facet of government has been compromised, and I have no doubt that this is not. My friend French Hill, who I serve in Congress with, is much more eloquent in his saying than he says. I hope that it's not. And I would like to see the reason behind them making these cuts, because they've been telling us, this administration has been telling us the economy is great. Yet for this drastic of a cut, to me, sends a clear signal that maybe we're not in as good shape as we're being told.
Well, we're hoping to get some more information this afternoon. As you're looking at your screen, we've got the former President Trump's event coming up in Wilmington, North Carolina, and then we have Tim Walz expected to speak in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I think we're going to hear from Walz first, but we'll be keeping a very close eye on these two events as we move through the weekend, because as we know, these political campaigns are very busy throughout weekends, and we've got our eyes on both events. Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett, thank you so much for joining us here on News Nation on your Saturday. We appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. I got to get out knocking on some doors. It's campaign season.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.